We would like you to forget about this one. This week, thanks to a report from Video Games Chronicle, the Nintendo Switch successor is back in the news. The report states a handful of details on the hardware, including that it is most likely currently targeting a second half 2024 release date, which I figure between now and then, that's an ample amount of time for Nintendo to listen to what I have to say and the advice that I have to give on how to have the perfect Nintendo Switch 2 launch and avoid another Wii U. Based off of their current reporting, there are a handful of less favorable details that could manifest in a Switch successor, so let's start with how to handle those first. Before Barbenheimer, there was Animal Crossing New Horizons cross Doom Eternal. And before that, there was the Nintendo Switch reveal trailer cross Rockstar's unveiling of Red Dead Redemption 2. These synergistic media drops are all the rage these days after what just happened in theaters. And with rumors circulating about a Red Dead Redemption remakester getting announced this month, in addition to Nintendo attending Gamescom ahead of the expected September Direct, maybe a line on a trailer drop again on this one, guys. Because not only would that just be funny, you also rely on John Marston and his return taking some of the heat and attention off of some of the hypothetical unfavorable aspects of a Switch successor, like returning to an LCD screen instead of an OLED, or God forbid, no backwards compatibility. But that's all worst case scenario talk, because of course, in my list of suggestions and advice to Nintendo about the Switch 2, nearly top of the list is backwards compatibility. The Switch library is quite honestly incredible. And I think if people removed the nostalgia lenses, we would kind of all agree that this is just the greatest console library in Nintendo's history. Between Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Smash Ultimate, Fire Emblem Three Houses, some really good Pokemon games, and an incredible Pokemon game, the best Metroid game in Metroid Dread, the Xenoblade trilogy, and a whole lot more. Now imagine if they all ran stable. I'm not saying we have to see a bunch of next-gen patches, or more likely next-gen upgrade fees for all of these games to have a successful launch, but if there was some sort of universal boost mode that would allow enthusiasts to download Super Mario Odyssey again and see New Donk City running at a stable frame rate and give them a, look at that, reaction, that's a point in your favor on day zero. Next up, and I do see a lot of people doubt this one, but in addition to backwards compatibility, just continue NSO the way you have been. Well, not the way you have been, but like, for God's sake, put more than one game a month. They get DK64 up there already, but continue building off of that library that already exists. Day one with my Switch 2, let me immediately play Mario Golf 64. Please. Now I believe this one, and the reason I do believe this is because of this image. In this image, where they completely erase the Wii U from history, they also detail growth of the NSO and subscription offerings beyond the current hardware. Now, I get why people aren't doubting this one, but I believe it. And if that makes me boo-boo the fool by the time the Switch 2 comes out, laugh at me then. In addition to the novelty of old games looking prettier, I do think we also have to look back to what worked with the launch of the original Nintendo Switch, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, obviously, we won't get a brand new Zelda for the launch of this thing. We just got Tears of the Kingdom, and I don't think you launch a Switch 2 with Zelda Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD. You throw that on the current Switch to kill time while we ramp up to this new console. What you can have, though, is a brand new 3D Mario, because this October will be 6 years, and likely 7 by the time we get our hands on this thing, since the release of a brand new, fully original 3D Mario game. The days of Super Mario Galaxy, followed by a 3-year turnaround to Mario Galaxy 2, are long gone, and as sad as that is, just imagine what this guy and his team have cooked up over the past 7 fucking years. That's right, you can't. Now, Zelda was somehow able to sell more than Mario when it comes to their core entries on the Switch, and Zelda is likely going to do it again with Tears of the Kingdom, which is a wild thing to say, but I will chalk that up to Breath of the Wild having the greatest trailer of all time, close off a very underwhelming software reveal event, and also having the game featured on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon. Mario had neither of those things, but it's still Mario, man. You drop the next 3D game at the launch of this thing with all the bells and whistles the new hardware provides, and you're making waves so big, they're sounding alarms. Good luck in the holiday 2024 shopping season, PS5 Pro. I'll be playing Super Mario Iliad. The last piece of advice is the naming of this thing. Now, ideally, we would just be able to call it the Nintendo Switch 2 and be done with it. It's simple, clean, and clearly conveys the point of what this is, but this is also Nintendo. We need to avoid a Wii to Wii U situation. And to find a safe name for this thing that's not the Switch 2, what we have to do is look to Nintendo's history. Either call this the Super Nintendo Switch or the Nintendo Switch Advance. Both Super and Advance convey new and powerful, and I think that's what they should be pushing here. The Switch concept itself is already great, and I think it's going to go down as Nintendo's greatest decision in their history. And really, all the advice I can give on how to have the perfect Switch 2 launch in one sentiment is to replicate what you did almost exactly and make it very clear that you are doing that a second time. Not the same kind of thing, but a little different. We'll see just how well Furukawa handles his first original hardware launch as CEO, and ideally it resembles something of the concepts we've talked about today. But again, this is Nintendo, so there is a very real possibility that come holiday next year, Nintendo drops the Nintendo Switch and Go Plus, and it launches with Super Mario Odyssey Deluxe, now in 4K, with a playable Luigi, and that's it. And we'll all still buy it again. That's all for Low Poly this week. I'll see you next time. Now, there was some hubbub this week about the old PS3 360 generation High Moon Studios Transformers games and the odds of them getting a re-release thanks to some comments from a Hasbro rep, which have since been walked back. The comments in question that were walked back, and I'm paraphrasing here, are basically when the Activision license expired for these games and Activision put High Moon Studios to work as COD support, the hard drives with the games on them were kind of just lost. Now again, Hasbro's issued an apology to Activision. They've clarified their comments, but that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is how cool these games were, specifically War for Cybertron, the first one, because that's the one I played. Transformers War for Cybertron absolutely rips. It's basically a Gears of War game, except you can choose to play the Autobot or Decepticon campaign. There's a Horde mode, and instead of a sprint button, you hold down one of the buttons to transform and move way faster in vehicle form, but you can take more damage that way. This game is the most I have ever been into Transformers, and I was in. Now, what's scary about this is thanks to the Activision deal kind of being finalized, then kind of not, I was thinking about what games, namely licensed games from Activision's history, Xbox/Microsoft could maybe foot the bill for and try and get re-releases of in the sake of preservation and the fact that there were some really cool games on there like War for Cybertron. And War for Cybertron was one of the ones that came to mind, and this was no less than a week ago. And then a couple of days later, this whole fiasco happens. So what I'm saying is I think I have unlocked a new superpower. I fear what this will do if we wake up Monday morning and we are able to play Donkey Kong 64 on our Nintendo Switches officially in less than, I'll say, a week. I think we have a problem.